Hello everyone, welcome back to Tittok. The mess, that is my mind. Obviously I'm not alone. I'm accompanied by my dog Lion and the lady that seems to be mentioned on every single episode. So I felt it was just necessary to have her as my first guest and make an appearance. Here she is, everybody, it's Wilma. The one that spreads all the wisdom. Wilma's wisdom. The lady herself.
Hardly, it's only years of experience.
What's it like to be a grandmother to a 25-year-old? I'm not one.
No, but I was a grandmother at the age of 39, so...
I wasn't the first one. I didn't have the pleasure of...
No, you were number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm 4 out of...
9.
And how many great-grandchildren are there?
4.
A great-grand-dog as well. This little guy here.
Yeah, I've got a few of them. This is the smallest.
Of course, he's making little snorts into the microphone, too. You know, I've mentioned us being roommates, how you were my ideal roommate, and, you know, moving away was really hard, but, you know, me finding my own independence and you finding, like, a new age of independence and, like, you know, sort of your retirement years, it's, you know, we've both come into our own in, like, a different way, I think, since I've moved out. But I just want to talk about the times when we lived together and me growing up. And
It was difficult when you moved out because I became an empty nester for the first time in my life and having to live by myself. So it was a new experience. And it's still an adjustment, even learning how to cook for one when you're used to cooking for a large family.
well, yeah, I mean, before it was even you and I, you had mentioned how many, you know, kids you had raised and how many mouths you had to feed, and I know you even were babysitting for a portion of your career, so it's not like a sadness of being alone, it's just like a new feeling, a new independence.
Well, I mean, you learn to take things one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time, and you try and focus on what you can do to fill your hours.
Yeah. Like I'm you know, and I've mentioned that you've taken up knitting, and, you know, you used to be in a bowling league, and, you know, there was always, you know, every day might not have been the most eventful, but there was sort of something to look forward to.
The routine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, granted, with the position that we're in now, we've sort of been forced to find our own routine and keep to that routine in order to keep some sort of level of sanity, really.
Well, I mean, with the pandemic that we're going through, I mean, there's some days, but you have to stop and think, what day is this?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Is it Thursday or Sunday? You know?
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, where if you had a routine, or even if you had a job, you knew that you were going to be doing something for, you know, so many hours out of the day. Where this way, it just rolls one into the other, and it's, oh, what time is this? Oh, I should have eaten an hour ago, and you know, it's a learning curve.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, I call you every day, and I rant to you. I mean, you know, bless your heart for listening to my, you know, absolutely crazy tangents and rants. Oh, it's time to walk the dog again, or oh, it's, you know, grocery shopping again. It's sort of these little routine things that we just are having to, like, find joy in. So I know it's, you know, things have really transformed, but I think we're both doing really well and just finding joy in, like, little things, even though it's becoming extremely redundant. I think we're both doing pretty well.
I totally agree. You know, we look at what can make us happy, what can be a joke, or even something that, you know, you hear on the radio and you can turn around and laugh. Or to me, music is a big thing. I get up in the morning and the radio goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, without music, I would be totally lost.
Well, and that's maybe where I get it from, because I can't have complete silence. You know, there's got to be some background noise. You know, music is usually what I turn to, but if not music, it's some podcasts that I'm listening to, or something to have on in the background. And I've taken to running and certain like physical activities, but there's got to be some sort of outlet. And I mentioned on a previous podcast, vices. Everyone sort of has their vice, and I joked, give me your advice if you don't have a vice, even if it's, you know, some people it's stuff that's very unhealthy, you know, in general, like even food, you know, some people that's their vice, right?
That's right. It becomes an addiction.
You've got Pepsi, that's your vice.
It is, but I mean, I can go days or weeks without having a Pepsi.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't had a Pepsi now for 2 weeks, so I enjoy it when I get it.
Yeah. But some people, you know, it's cigarettes and it's, you know, alcohol, marijuana, you know, again, food, like those are sort of like the top, I'd say the top ones people turn to sort of disassociate, if you will. But
Or gambling online.
Yeah, just
You
this.
know, I think that's going to be a big one, because people, now that they can buy a ticket online without leaving their home, I think that's going to create a larger addiction
Mm-hmm.
down the road,
Mm-hmm.
financially as well as emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it goes along with this instant, like at your fingertips idea of like potentially getting money, or just
That's
you
right.
feel like you're more in control than maybe you would be at a casino or something else. But
Well, I do enjoy my chocolate.
yeah, no, like I feel everyone has something, and not that that's makes you
But
imperfect.
reading, I mean, I enjoy reading tremendously too, so.
Yeah. And I've recently gotten into reading. You know, I'm more, you know, the book that I'm still working through, I'm on page, I think, 50 something, the 4 agreements that I've mentioned on here before. I never got into the fictional books, you know, sort of like living vicariously through somebody else, which I know that's, you're a big fan of fiction.
True, but I also enjoy autobiographies.
Mm-hmm. That's true, yeah. Like you've
Yeah.
read Michelle Obama's.
Yes, and for Christmas I got Barack Obama's book.
Mm-hmm.
700 and some pages. So I do enjoy variety.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's good to have a variety. Like the one I'm working through, 4 agreements, it's, I'll read a couple pages and I might have to even go back and read those pages because I really want what I'm reading to sink in. And I know it's a book I'll revisit in the future when I need to, but it's, even recently, the recent chapter I read, being impeccable with your word, it's the first agreement, but it's the most powerful one. And what he means by that and what the practice is being, if I, like, even this morning, I didn't follow through. I caught myself this morning not being impeccable with my word. I said, I'm the worst texter. I was responding to my Aunt Colleen because I hadn't responded to her, and I think it was, she texted me last night. I didn't get back to her. So this morning I carried on the conversation and I started it off with, I'm the worst texter. That's not being impeccable with my word. I should be saying, I'm going to try harder at getting better at this texting and responding thing. My apologies. And then, as opposed to being so down and if even putting like gossip upon yourself or speaking down upon yourself or your abilities or people around you, that's not really lifting yourself up or being impactful with your words. So I think it's something that you've always been very, very good at. You've always, even in times of frustration, I'd be like, Grandma, like, why are you pausing before you speak, And you've always been very good at sort of being intentional with how you speak, the words that you say, and how you present it, and just this, this just general calmness and caring, like, manner that you have to yourself and the words in which you speak and how you speak to people. So I don't know if you know that, but I am putting a lot of intention into getting better at being more impactful with my word. And I wonder if you were aware, if you had anything to say about that.
No, I'm not aware of that, but I do know over the years when I was in somewhat an argument or argumentative relationship, I would listen and I would walk away, and an hour or two later I would have lots to say, but it would take me a long time. But I found a lot of times if I could put my thoughts or my feelings onto paper, I could relay them much better than verbally.
Mm-hmm.
It's important, because if you don't have the passion, or if you don't work for something that you want, you may not get it, and you may never feel completely fulfilled.
You know, I'm sure you and I can both think of times where we've worked extremely hard for something and we've gotten it, and it's the sense of fulfillment and just it's
self-pride.
It totally, you know, because you worked for the exact reason that you worked hard at it. You know, it's really nice when things just sort of come into place, fall into place. You know, whatever's meant to be will be. That's something I totally agree with. However, you need to, and I said this on the last podcast, you have to walk the walk. It can't just always be
That's right.
Talking the talk. You have to walk yourself through all the steps in order to reach the goal.
And you can't judge somebody else because you don't know what they have endured to get to where they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So unless you walk in somebody else's steps and experience that same steps, you shouldn't judge.
Even on TikTok, Rachel's even mentioned of like the grandmas that are going viral, you know, or people well into their 40s, 50s plus that are going viral. I mean, I'm sure you've maybe seen on news that man who's been skateboarding with the cranberry juice. Did you ever hear of that guy? He now has like taken himself and his family out of, you know, into like a sort of a better environment and provided for them, and all because of TikTok and this exposure that he's gained, and that wasn't on his like life path or in line with what he was doing for work at the time, right? But it's you know, people, you know, just sort of come into something different. No matter what age, you can sort of transform if you want to, regardless.
Well, we all have a life journey or a life path, but the path can branch out like a tree and go into many different directions, you know, and we have to learn to adapt to it.
Yeah. You've also got to see so many people, like, you know, be born and live their life and accomplish things like graduation, and, you know, you've been a part of so much life yourself, but and also other people's life journeys because of you, you know. So it's, you know, mentioning graduation, I sort of want to, you know, I know you made my graduation dress for grade 8. That was a whole scenario, you know. It's because it was a big deal, you know, like my grade 8 graduation dress, you know?
It was, but it was also very trying, and I mean, you had picked out the material, you had picked out the pattern. It was, other than having the hem done, it was completely finished, and then you started picking it apart. I don't like this, or this doesn't fit right, and through your frustration, you revealed that you had felt that you didn't belong, in the sense that you, at school, you heard the other girls going shopping with their mothers, you know, for a dress, and you didn't feel as if you fit with your peers. So we went shopping for a dress. We went to Le Chateau. Ironically, we found the exact same dress, except it was in a different color, and it had pockets. Other than that, it was totally identical to the one that I had made. But it made you feel as if you were equal to your peers.
You know, there was nothing like wrong with it per se, you know what I mean? But like you just sort of mentioned, like it
wasn't my first time in sewing, because I had sewed numerous dresses.
Dozens. dozens of
yearly
Yeah.
for my children, my grandchildren. I made bridesmaid dresses. I made a wedding dress. So
Dance recital alterations.
So yes, it was not from lack of experience.
It was an incredibly well made dress, you know, and it just, you know, and I wish, you know, I could have like gone back and had the mentality of like, I'm the only girl in grade 8 that has their grandmother hand making their graduation dress, you know, but that wasn't my mentality at the time.
No, you were a grade 8 girl who was graduating, going into grade 9, and you wanted
to be like everyone else,
to fit in.
Yeah. You know, and I've been able to adapt this mindset of, you know, wanting to be independent, like, you know, this wanting to not be like everybody else, and totally, you know, just thriving with who I am and loving myself. And it takes time, and I haven't reached like this total like maximum of self-love. I mean, I'm there. It's a lifelong journey, right?
It totally is, but the thing is, one wants to feel a part of their friends, their circle, so that they're not always the outsider looking in. So I mean, that goes to socialization.
Yeah.
And I think with this pandemic, there's going to be a lot more people being aware of who their friends are. And they may be taking a look and thinking, okay, maybe I don't need all those friends. Maybe I just want to keep a select few, and really know who their true friends are, and those who are just acquaintances.
Well, and it's quality over quantity, and we can always, you know, at the end of the day, we always have ourselves to rely on. And, you know, I've preached about being surrounded by strong, independent women my whole life. You know, always knowing that you do have good quality people to turn to is super important. You know, as a young woman, like you know, I do have a small group of people that I can turn to. I'm sure you can even attest to, you know, and this is some Wilma wisdom, you know, a reason, a season, or a lifetime, you know, is something you say, people that come, or something you've said is people come into your lifetime, and they might not always, you know, stay there forever, but they might have taught you a lesson or served some sort of purpose. And, you know, friends can teach you things and encourage you to do things, but if it reaches a point where they're just not serving you, or you feel like you're putting out a lot of energy and maybe not receiving that like love back or that energy back, it might be, you know, better for you to cut it off, or just, you know, let things sort of fade away naturally. And that's not a bad thing or a selfish thing. It just might be for like your better self. And, you know, I'm looking forward to going back and into spaces where I have like-minded people and developing new friendships, because it's something that I moved to Toronto in order to do, and that's sort of been put on hold. You know, and I know you're excited to return back to bowling, and, you know, you've got your group of girls there, and, you know, you have a strong relationship with your family and your sister, and through different community organizations, and, you know, it just sort of happens naturally, you know, but it's not selfish to sort of cut people out if you need to every once in a while either.
That's right. Your interests change, your hobbies change. So if you don't have a lot in common with those people anymore, then it just sort of falls by the wayside.
Naturally, people can grow apart, right? It's just a fact of life.
Or you get to my age and they pass away.
Well, yeah. Inevitably, we all leave this earth at some point. The hope is you leave with, you know, you leave a good impression on people, and they, you know, they have a big party for you. Celebrate your life. I hope I have a celebration of life when I've gone, and, you know, people can put on their flared bell bottoms and throw up a disco ball and dance the night away. That's what I hope.
I don't know. I've prepared a list of songs I want played. Quote, my celebration of life, unquote. Whether they get played or not, I won't know.
Well, of course, well, you'll be there. You'll be there. You'll be the guest of honor. I mean, you gotta be there. They'll be played. But, I mean, you're invincible.
But they're all songs that have helped me through difficult times or have given me strength or happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, the power of music, because there's, you know, and I've said this too, there's a lot of times, in my case, I find a lot of rap artists, they are able to articulate a lot of the things that I'm going through and feelings that I'm experiencing, and they, you know, they do it in a way where you just simply just can sit back and feel that emotion, and it's so powerful. And you know, I know for you it's country music, and
not totally country. I mean,
sure.
there's quite a variety. I mean, I'm not gonna quote my list, but I mean, you know, there's the Hallelujah chorus for one.
Yeah.
You know, there's some, I won't say religious, but spiritual songs that have great meaning to me. There's one, I forget who the artist was, but if you're going through hell, keep on going. You know,
Yeah, don't slow down. If you're scared, don't show it.
That's right. So, you know, it does have some powerful words to it, regardless of whether it's country music or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, songs have great messages if you want to listen to them.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite song right now, or like other than Going Through Hell, or whichever that one's called?
Oh, that was a difficult one.
Do you have an Elvis Presley song on this list?
Can't Help Falling in Love with You.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
You know?
They don't make music like they used to. That's for sure.
No, they don't.
No. And I even I really enjoy, I enjoy music from all decades, but even on my car ride to Kitchener today, I was listening to Nights in White Satin.
Mm-hmm.
Have you? Yes, I love you. Like, just beautiful, beautiful song. And it's even got some flute in there, like, just, you know, even like Led Zeppelin. You know, like, they just don't make music like they used to.
But don't get me started on the Celtic music.
Well, no, that's, you know. We're recording this on the eve of St. Patrick's Day. Oh, hello, Lion. You're making a cameo. That's why I've got my all green on. And my grandma's a big fan of Ireland. She's been twice now. Are you 4%? Is that the fine at this point? You're 4% Irish, says Ancestry.
I'm not sure.
It was 6, but then more relatives have trickled in, and
through Ancestry.
Well, it's you can, you know.
But you know, it's difficult to really believe all of that totally, because with my sister having doing the tracing the genealogy, I've got relatives that have come from Northern Ireland and from Southern Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we've got their names and, you know, all of that going back to, you know, 1800s. So to say that, you know, I'm only 4 or 5%, whatever, and yet, like, my one sister has like 2% Irish and another one's got more. So, like, how can siblings have totally different, you know, percentages?
I mean, you all
is very baffling.
You all have the same blood flowing through your body, if I'm not mistaken. So.
That's right, but apparently DNA says otherwise. So it's interesting, but very confusing.
I mean, my last name obviously is Scottish, MacDonald, but I've got some Irish in me, and
you've got Ukrainian, and you've got German.
A little bit of all of it.
Scotch. And
a European mutt. That's what we.
Or Heinz 57 that my mother used to say years ago.
Yeah. No, it's I've never been to Ireland. I haven't gone with you. You took your daughters, and it was 3 years ago now. 2 years ago.
2018.
Yeah. So it's, you know, not that we can travel right now, but I mean, I'm sure you'd like to go again and, you know, potentially see some of your favorites, or go to a spot you haven't been. You have a preference, or you've been to just one side versus the other, right?
No, I've been on both sides, but there are some cities, you know, in areas that I haven't been to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've mentioned, you know, I've survived my evening away in London, Ontario, but I think, you know, a week or two, you know, in a country might be a stretch for me right now with Lion. But it's, you know, I'd hate to, you know, get to a point in my life where, you know, I didn't take that trip to Ireland with my grandma, and it's sort of too late, you know what I mean? And then I'm beating myself up, like, you know, Lion would have been fine, or this and that, but, you know, and I'll figure it out when you go when this pandemic's over, you know, because I don't think you've gone for your last time, but.
Well, the East Coast, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, PEI, that area.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to BC,
Mm-hmm.
other than, you know, the border of Alberta and BC, but, you know, an hour away. But I haven't been to Vancouver. Or, you know, I've got a childhood friend who lives in Vancouver Island. I've got a cousin in Victoria, so, you know, who knows whether I'll get that far west. But
Right. No, there's so much of this world I still have yet to see. I mean, you've gone on many cruises and, you know, done some traveling yourself.
But that was after my children had grown up.
Yeah. Well, a good portion of your life was just devoted to your family and providing, because you had to. You were pretty well the single provider for.
Yes, because of mental health from
Yeah.
my husband. So yeah.
So it's, you know, you had to sort of hold off on the traveling for a chunk of your life there, you know, and
Yes.
you know, and you know, in a way you sort of had no attachments, such as myself, who's attached herself to her dog, who now is making up all the excuses on why she can't travel the world and do all these amazing things. But you didn't have those attachments. You were able to, you know, you went with your
Friends.
you know,
And
you've gone with your
sisters.
sister. I still have hope that I'm going to travel places and make, you know, great friends.
Well, you're
and,
still young. I mean, you've got a lifetime ahead of you.
Of course. I just hope I'm not 56 when I'm let out of quarantine and, you know, God knows
It
what.
won't be.
I mean, you've seen global disasters. You've been through polio and all these, you know.
Yes.
They've come and they've gone. But this one's intense. I mean, it's the only one I've lived through, and naturally I'm just dramatic and exaggerate the heck out of everything, but
Yeah, but I mean, you think back to SARS was a big thing.
yeah, I remember that. In Toronto especially. So I would have been preteen, maybe 11, 12, something like that maybe. But regardless, I mean, I hold out hope, you know, and again, focus on what we can control,
Yeah.
remaining optimistic every day, doing things that bring us joy, and
That's right. That's all you can do.
check in on your loved ones. And, you know, you've been busting out these socks for everyone. You knit the coolest socks. I've got 2 pairs myself, but, you know, you've got a waiting list.
Well,
You're in high demand.
I made 36 pair for Christmas, so I haven't made quite as many this year yet, but then I didn't start until March or April last year anyway, so
Well,
who knows.
you're doing it more at your leisure now too.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's good. I mean, you have to keep your mind active and, you know, do things. You're new to Netflix. I got you Netflix.
Yes. Michelle Obama has started knitting now,
Oh yeah.
since the pandemic.
I remembered this morning that I have a 1,000-piece puzzle that I started it and then I put it back in the box. That I never actually finished it. So I think I might have to clear off the table and designate a
There's a
puzzle
lot
spot.
of people that have started puzzles.
Yeah.
You can get the puzzles at, you know, Value Village or Goodwill or...
Well, I've even seen on TikTok people puzzle swaps. So, in book exchange, people are getting quite crafty with how they can connect to their neighbors in these times. And yeah. This too shall pass. one step at a time, you know,
That's right.
all the AA sayings that totally apply to just
for today, keep it simple, stupid.
a serenity prayer. What's that one? The focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. Something like that.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That's the one. That's the one. You know, you lived in Ochre River, Manitoba, until you were, was it 12 years old? 11. And then you know, I think I shouldn't speak for you, but maybe you left a piece of yourself there. You know,
Oh, a huge piece, a huge piece. Yeah. I remember looking back at the back seat of the car, crying on my way, all for hours. It was a big adjustment.
And
leave from a little village of maybe 500 people, including the farmers, to Toronto. And we lived there for 5 years and then moved to Kitchener. So it was a huge adjustment.
And why did you have to leave Manitoba again? Because your mom was a school teacher.
Yes.
And what was your dad doing in Ochre River at the time?
He had a general store.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that he needed to get out and work outside type of thing, but really not sure of the reason. But he did come down here, and he did work for his brother's construction company, and they actually worked on the Trans-Canada Highway up Northern Ontario for a number of years. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you had to just, figure out life as an 11-year-old in Toronto, and then, so you were how old when you came to Kitchener? 14? 15?
15?
Yeah.
16?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've pretty well been here ever since.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went back to Ochre River a few years ago. Took a road trip.
I've been there several times.
Yeah.
I mean, after we moved down here, because my grandparents were still out west, we either drove out there every Christmas or they took the train down here, but we went and spent the summer out there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after I was married, children came along, so he didn't have the money to do the traveling, but I was out there in 2017 for a reunion, and in 87 for a reunion. So I didn't know the highways, but I knew where to turn to get to the towns I needed to get to. So yeah.
Well, it stays with you, I guess.
It does, most definitely.
I was born and raised in Kitchener, and then I, just sort of felt the need to get out and move to Toronto. I
spread your wings.
You spread your wings. There's obviously an appeal to move to the city. I don't know why it was Toronto for me. I think a lot of people that grow up in Kitchener just sort of choose Toronto.
It was more the larger metropolis.
Yeah. And I think too, because I went to school in the city and lived at home when I went to school for the most part, other than my stint at university for 5 minutes. I just
5 minutes or a couple months?
Couple months. Felt like 5 minutes in the grand scheme of life, but in an environment that raised you, that you've grown so comfortable in, how do you expect to sort of like move to that next level, that next chapter, if you're just going to be stuck in that same sort of comfort bubble? Not that that's not meant for everyone, and granted you have to adapt, and if your parents find a job in a new city, you don't really have a say in that.
No, you don't.
But when it comes to you sort of taking control and making the move for yourself, and finding geographically where you want to be, it's a big decision. And
true, but if you come from the country, you can leave the country, but you can't take the country out of the person. That's always going to be a part of you.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to take the Kitchener out of me, unfortunately.
No, and who's to say, you know, in another 20 years, you might want to be back in the Kitchener, the slower
Yeah.
pace from the busy metropolis of Toronto.
I'd love to be by water. I can totally see myself wanting to be close to nature. There's just this pull of like, oh, I've got to be in the city making shit happen for myself. There's such a pull to nature.
You used to go camping and canoeing with them.
Yeah. No, I mean,
you have your own paddle with your name on it.
I mean, I'm sure it's miniature now. I mean, I might need to get,
Well,
an
you
adult
got it when you
size.
were, what, the age of 5?
Yeah,
So-
yeah. It's adorable. No, I've got such great memories in nature, and just, I think as humans, we should be spending more time in nature than we are on our phones. But granted, although the government says it's so bad for us, they're also encouraging us to now spend all of our time inside.
True, but I think the young people are losing I won't even say the art. They're spending so much time on their cell phones, they don't know how to communicate with other people because they're looking at the screen all the time. They're losing their ability to spell properly because the spell check's there, so they don't care, or there's acronyms that they're using, so they're losing out on so much of that. So yes, technology is great to a large degree, but it has its downfalls.
Totally. Like, I don't know if I'd ever be able to, like, read a book on the phone. I even struggle to read an article on my phone, even though that's where I find information to be the most readily accessible.
True, but it's something about turning the pages.
Yeah.
But I think with all the screen time, people are developing more eye issues.
Mm-hmm.
They're developing more headaches associated with the screen time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's downfalls to technology in that respect.
Yeah. So many downfalls. I mean, even me figuring out, this is my first time recording with 2 mics, and Lord knows if both mics are even picking up the sound, but it's trial and error, and you can't always rely on technology. I mean, we've all been through situations where you're at a cashier and they make the joke, oh, the machines are messing with me today, or if it's a cold day in Canada, we like to say the machines are frozen. Like, it's just it's put into place for convenience and for some sort of reason, but it's I think even in your lifetime you sort of have seen it take massive impacts on communication and just the way people interact with one another and just how they are individually. I mean, I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is check my cell phone. That's not the case for you. Never been.
No. I can go hours without even looking at it.
Yeah, and I remember a time when that wasn't the case for me. But I wonder if we ask, if we ask somebody else, they'd say, oh no, I never remember a time when, I remember a time when I didn't have a cell phone. I remember a time when I didn't have the internet, or when I, all these things. And it's funny how those are the times that I'm looking back on right now, and I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love still being young and having life ahead of me, I almost wish I was like a well-established 45-year-old, and I could just be like laughing at home, like, oh wow, like all the life I lived in the past before all this happened, but, and that's, I'll take what I have. I'm very grateful for it all, but no, it's as a 25-year-old who, like, even at first I wanted the cell phone, I wanted the social media, but I never really fell into it super heavy like a lot of other people. I'm even learning how to market this podcast, and I'm forming a new relationship with social media now, and even you'll sometimes check Facebook, but even that's new to you, and it's this it's like kind of inauthentic, but somehow we feel necessary.
True, But you've also got to learn something new all the time, because when you stop learning or stop being curious, you're not growing.
Yeah, no, you have to keep a, like a forever learning mindset, and even if you're just learning Facebook, that's still learning something. If you've mastered Facebook, Netflix, you've done more than you thought you could even master.
Haven't mastered Zoom yet.
Not Zoom. But you thought the Roku and everything was gonna, there's.
That's true.
It's the fear of the unknown, fear of.
Oh, definitely. The fear of unknown can be very daunting.
Mm-hmm. But another thing you always say is you can't live in fear.
No. You can deal with things that life throws at you if you know what you're dealing with. It's the unknown that can keep you frozen in time, so that you struggle with dealing with it. But when you know what you're dealing with, then you know how to work with it, mm-hmm. or adjust to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something Amy has, she's trying to, reinforce, or reward my positive behavior, but I'm saying, I'm aware of this version of myself that I don't like, and it's that awareness and identifying, these things and being aware of them in order to work through them and, conquer them. And yeah, I think, to wrap it up, we're forced to sort of come into a new awareness about ourselves, because let's face it, Grandma, in our lives, when we get comfortable and used to something, the world likes to just sweep the rug right from under us and be like, okay, adapt again. Glad you got comfy. Have fun adapting again. Gonna flip your world upside down,
That's right.
But I know you're strong, and I know you'll deal with it and come out great on the other end. But,
But you have to have faith, too.
Of course.
Whether you believe in a higher power or God or whatever you want to call it. Everybody has a certain amount of faith in something.
What do I have faith in?
The sun will come up tomorrow.
The sun will come up tomorrow.
And it's supposed to be a high of 12, so.
There you go. That's enough for me. And it's St. Patrick's Day.
That's right.
And here's to luck of the Irish and, 12 degrees and sunny.
Have a drink of Guinness.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sitting down with me, Grandma. I couldn't think of a better first guest to have. I talk about you to everybody that I know, so I couldn't imagine not talking about you and introducing you to my little podcast family. So,
okay.
All right, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on, or if you're watching on YouTube, give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys for being here, and I can assure you I will have more to get off of my chest next week. So, peace and love. Talk to you soon. We did it.
And he just let off some air.